Welcome back for another video. I know I keep going on and on about practicing, but you'll like this one. So today's video is going to be talking about my personal practice routine. Got paper, notes. In total, I try and aim for minimum 4 hours.
What?
Yes, 4 hours of practice. You should try and aim to practice as slowly as you can. Some people disagree and some people agree. Depends on what works for you, but for me personally, again, this is based upon my own practice routine. I practice very slowly initially, and then of course once you know the things you're practicing, then you start to bump up the speed. So my practice consists of two main sections: a classical section and a jazz section. I practice both 2 hours each, so 2 hours on classical and then 2 hours on jazz. So the first thing we're going to talk about is technical exercises. So the main reason why I practice technical exercises, or most people would, is to develop a good foundation of technique, so you have a good solid foundation for a good base to work from. So we learn technical exercises to foundationalize everything. Doesn't make sense, but you get what I mean. Helps with being familiar with the piano, to be able to facilitate properly over the piano. They improve your endurance, so how long you can stand on the piano is kind of like almost like an exercise, a real life exercise for your fingers and for your hands. It's good to kind of build up the endurance, build up the strength in your fingers, all these kind of things to make sure you can play as comfortable as possible for as long as possible. So technical exercises include scales, arpeggios, broken chords, finger and hand independence exercises, and I do all of this for 20 minutes. Some books that I like to recommend are The Manual of Scales, Broken Chords and Arpeggios. ABRSM released this thick book of every scale, every arpeggio, every broken chord in every permutation possible. I recommend getting that book. It's very useful. The scales are right there, and if you can't read music, then you just start reading. A book by Jeffrey Tankard, this is very good. A book by Jeffrey Tankard and Eric something. It's called Pianoforte Technique on an Hour a Day. It's a green cover, excellent for structuring technical exercises and things to do every day. I definitely recommend that. Someone recommended it to me in uni and I haven't stopped using it. It's been very good for the hands and independence of the fingers and strengthening the fingers and all sorts. Amazing. A channel that I'd recommend is YouTubers Josh Wright and Paul Barton. Both of them have tons of videos on technical exercises and little tips and tricks for you to be able to work on your own technique and for you to be able to easily become fluid on the piano. So you want to try and keep the practice interesting, because it can become quite monotonous doing it over and over again. So try and find ways of making it interesting, whether you do it to a backing track or to a drum beat can be quite interesting. Try and be creative with your practice. So once you've got the actual scales down or the arpeggios, maybe you can figure out some ways to make it more musical. So you can do it in thirds, you can turn it into a song, turn the scales into some kind of a song or something like that to make it fun, if you can. And try and initially practice to a metronome, if you can. The metronome doesn't lie, it's a computer, it doesn't lie. So if anyone's out of time, it's you. So making sure that you can practice to a metronome and have good rhythm and have good time, so that you don't have to think about it later on. It's harder to undo things that are wrong, if you see what I mean. So yeah. Make sure you don't feel no pain. The moment you feel pain, stop. You shouldn't really be feeling any serious pain. You should be feeling a bit of an ache, or you should be feeling, some kind of strain, but not pain. If it's painful, stop, see a doctor. Right, 20 minutes. Sight reading. Yes, And I'm the odd person that likes sight reading. Yes, I love sight reading, and the reasons why I sight read are to improve reading speed. So to improve my reading, you can never stop learning how to read because there's always different things that come up, different speeds, different rhythms, etc. To improve my recognition of the shapes of the different scales and the different arpeggios that are written, so that you recognize it, play it, move on. Because the idea is you want to create snapshots of what you're playing ahead of time, which is difficult. It's hard. I'm still not that great at it. I'm still not that good at it, but you know, I get better bit by bit every day. Again, it helps with familiarizing yourself with the piano, because crucial thing, do not look down when you're sight reading.
What?
Look up, feel your way around, and play your notes. So you have to kind of imagine an imaginary piano in your head and feel the black keys and feel where the notes are, and then you got to play it. Don't look down. You need to look at the music at all times, especially when you're sight reading or reading. And also it helps with your short-term memory as well. If you can sight read effectively and well, then the amount that you can take in one bunch starts to improve. I do all of this for 20 minutes. So different things to sight read with. These are the things that I use. So I have this book of Bach chorales that I use to sight read. They're incredibly hard, but you can decipher it down. You can read one voice at a time, read two voices at a time, as long as you are reading and you're not looking down. So these kind of chorales here, they're quite tricky. They're quite tricky to be able to read all four. That's why Bach is someone that people kind of don't enjoy playing, because it requires so much brain power. But the stuff is very musical. There are 371 harmonized chorales, and there's some figure-based stuff at the back and all sorts. Like, you can get really simple pieces like this one here. So the one on the left, your left, my right. So yeah, Bach chorales, excellent. Easy classics to moderns. This is very good. Josh Wright, the YouTuber who I had recommended earlier, I got this and it's great. It's got really simple pieces that you can sight read. Remembering not to look down. Trust me, don't look down. See, quite simple pieces here. For beginners especially, it's very good to kind of go through them and be able to play them. And then also, you're also learning pieces as well as sight reading. So there is a technical exercise study by Isidore Philippe, a French piano player, French pianist, and it's on IMSLP. It's called Finger Independence of the Hands or something like that. I'll link it below so you can see it. Very good. It's quite tricky actually, but you can do it. You can also have a look at Dohnányi exercises as well, which are quite advanced, but once you've got them, you've got the independence. You'll be able to strengthen that independence. It's very good. Dohnányi independence of the hands or something like that. I'll link it all down in the description below. So now we get onto the pieces. Now I practice minimum 40 minutes per piece, and I practice two pieces usually. One that's fast and technical, or one that's slow and lyrical. And that brings the whole total up to 2 hours, just for the classical alone. Why you practice pieces? To have an increased repertoire of different songs or different pieces to play. You want to be able to have quite a few pieces that you can pull out. And learning pieces also puts everything that you've learned in your technical exercises and all of that kind of stuff into practice. And you can test it out and you can experiment and you can try new things, and also you'll be reading a lot. So reading the pieces that you have, you'll be reading them as you learn them and as you practice them, so it's very useful. Recommended pieces: Mozart, Beethoven, Chopin, Edvard Grieg, Rachmaninoff, it goes on and on and on. Try and learn pieces that are just a bit above your level so that you don't find them too easy and you don't find them too hard, but enough so that you're learning and your brain is tired at the end of it. So you're learning, you're constantly growing. Pick pieces that you enjoy, pieces that you like and that makes you feel nice and good inside, you know? You don't want to pick things that, well, unless you're studying at university, you get chosen pieces for you, but try and learn pieces for yourself that you enjoy and that you like, and listen to a lot of versions of the song and listen to it over and over again so that you're able to take it in and digest it and be able to actually, you know how it sounds whilst you're practicing it, because there's nothing worse than practicing something you've never heard before. That's why sight reading is good, to be able to get better with that, but still, you know, if you've got the option, try and listen to it. So that covers all of the classical, and that is 2 hours. 2 hours. Next we move on to jazz. So for jazz, again, technical exercises. Now this isn't necessarily linked to finger independence things and all that, but learning like jazz arpeggios. So things that you could be doing for technical exercises are jazz arpeggios, voicings, chord voicings, that kind of thing, to be able to familiarize yourself with the jazz harmony that you have, knowing about sevenths, about altered chords, about that kind of thing. Scales and modes as well. Modes are scales, technically. If you know all your scales, you know your modes. That's it, because modes are derived from major and minor scales, coincidentally. So if you can learn your scales, then you know your modes. It's just a case of applying it. Modes is a tricky one because me personally, I don't practice modes. But for me, modes is more to do with associating color to different things. Like Dorian has a certain color, Phrygian has a certain color, Mixolydian has a certain color, but I don't take them as individual scales. To me, they're just colors, things to apply to make my pieces sound more colorful, rather than it being more of a technical or theoretical exercise, if you see what I mean. I do all this for 20 minutes. Now for technical exercises and things to know about jazz harmony, I definitely recommend the Jazz Piano book by Mark Levine. It's the Jazz Bible. You can use that book for the next 30 years. It's got everything in there you need to know. It's on Amazon for about £30-40. It's definitely worth it. Trust me, I use it. It's amazing, it's great. If I need a refresher, sometimes I go back to it, or if I want to look at something new, I go back to it. YouTube is good, but sometimes having a look at a solid book is very good as well. Again, try and keep the practice interesting. Try and make it more creative. Try and practice to a metronome as well, or to a backing track that is metronomically in time, rather than someone playing it because you want to be directly in time. And then once you've got good time, then you can start to swing it, and you can start to fall behind the beat or in front of the beat and start to swing it and quintupletize it. You know, that kind of drunk swing feel stuff. Yeah. Again, making sure you don't feel any pain. The moment you feel pain, stop. It's a wrap. Stop it. Wait until you've healed. Start again. My favorite bit of the jazz, transcribing. I do this for 20 minutes as well, or 30 minutes. I'm giving you minimum times, but sometimes I run over, sometimes I don't, it depends. So the reason why transcribing is important is for familiarizing yourself with jazz phrases and licks and bebop phrases and all that kind of stuff. Doing it by ear, listening to it over and over again, trying to play it on the piano and trying to get it. Transcribing is great for ear training. Being able to train your ear and being able to listen to a phrase and play back what you hear. It takes time to develop, but once you've got it, then you'll be listening to a lot of jazz tunes and be like, oh, that's that lick. Oh, I've transcribed that. Oh, it's that lick. Oh, it's just you know, that kind of thing. Recommended books for this: Blank Manuscript. That's what I recommend. The reason why I recommend it is I like to write my transcriptions down by hand. You have different software like Sibelius, you have MuseScore, you have Finale, but I like to write mine down because I don't know, it's something about writing it down that's, you know, satisfying for me. And rubbing it out with a pencil and then putting it in an archive and a folder and it's a piece of history for me, you know. There's a program that I recommend by a company called 7-String called Transcribe. Very useful, very good. It costs about £20, but you can slow things down, you can speed things up, you can change the key of certain things, and it comes with a little keyboard that you can press the note and you can try and identify what the note is. You can loop sections, you can create loop points as well. It's by far the best investment ever. Best £20 I've ever spent. Pick a solo that you can sing off by heart and that makes you smile. Again, it goes back to listening constantly, listening to pieces all the time and trying to make sure that you can listen to it and play it, and not having to think about listening to it whilst you're transcribing. You already know it, so you just have to learn how to play it. Make sure you can sing it. If you can sing a transcription or sing a solo, then it's easy to transcribe because you can sing it and play it back to yourself, and it's like a loop. You sing it, play it back, hear it, sing it, play it back, sing it, you know, it's a cycle, it goes through. Right, now, for an hour, I'll learn a standard, a jazz standard. You do this because, again, you want to increase your jazz vocabulary, increase your jazz repertoire pieces. Just type in jazz standards and endless amount of standards will come up. Autumn Leaves, For, So What, loads of standards. Just pick one, listen to it and learn it, make sure you like it, and then try and learn it. Classical pieces should be played as written, usually, but with jazz, you got freedom to do whatever you like to do with it. You can play it how you want, you can change it, you can change key, you can experiment with the voicings that you've been learning, and you can solo over it as well, and all kinds of stuff. So learn standards. It's an endless amount of standards. You're never going to learn all of them and memorize all of them. It's good to have a few on your belt so that you can practice them and you can learn them and take them in. Recommended books, Real Book. You can get a Real Book online, and just pick a standard and learn it. Also, there's a program or an app called iRealB or iReal Pro. You can buy it on the App Store for about £10, and you've got tons of standards that you can play at a press of a button. Again, you can change the key of it, you can slow it down, you can speed it up, you can create all kinds of styles and backing tracks, and it's great. It's absolutely phenomenal. All this stuff I've learned in the past 4 or 5 years have kind of changed my life. Again, be creative. Try and use the session to learn standards to try and be creative and try and find what works for you. You might have heard this thing about finding your sound. Personally, I feel like that will come in time. If you learn all of these things, you'll find your sound naturally, but it's not something you find. You just know it's your sound. And people are like, oh yeah, that's Nathaniel Coke's sound, or oh, that's Jimmy Shu's sound. You know, just having a good sound and you know what I mean. So having a good sound. And at the end of the session, I just jam, be creative. If I've had a good session, I'll have a jam and I'll spend 10 minutes or more just playing around with everything and just being creative, being free, having fun, enjoying myself, doing whatever works for me, you know, just trying to have fun, trying to work on making all the creative juices flowing. I also might use a session to compose something new as well. I try and compose. So I hope all of that has been very useful. It's a lot to take in, but I'm happy to share all this with you guys because, you know, music is something that should be shared. So yeah, all these things I'll pull it up in the description below so you can download it and take it and do whatever you like with it and steal it. Okay, don't steal it, but you know, yeah. So I hope you like this video. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.